Alright, welcome back. So I ended up reading from 18 all the way to the end. So the last 17 chapters, I stayed up till 4 a.m. reading, and that was a good thing. Really wanted to find a book that really captivated my interest and just riveted me and kept me going until the end. So a whole lot of things got cleared up at the end of this book. A lot of loose ends were tied up. For instance, we learned why Galen idolized chivalry. We also learned what happened between Galen and Fitz when Galen challenged Fitz. Because I remember reading that scene and being confused about what was going on. What did some of the lines mean? I wasn't sure. And, once Fitz meets up with Verity explains it, and it made it a lot more clear. And I went back and read that scene, and then I understood what some of those lines meant and what exactly was happening. It also made it clear, why Fitz suddenly thought that he couldn't use skill anymore. And I'll be honest, I kind of fell for this. Galen duped me. We also meet up with a certain dog again, and I was just completely wrong about that. Fitz, in my defense, thought that Burek had killed him as well, which gave Burek this darker persona throughout the story. It turns out he had it. And then a few chapters later, good dog. When Fitz does approach Burek about it, Burek is very callous in his response. He just couldn't believe that Fitz thought he had killed Nosy, which is a surprise to me because, Fitz was so young. Of course that's what he thought. And yeah, Burek's just hard-headed. Literally, he's got a thick-ass skull. When they're on their way to this other town and they arrive, Regal hasn't told anyone to expect different customs or expect a different culture. And this very much seems to me kind of like a Hobbism, I guess, that Fitz is kind of embarrassed because of this, and he kind of wants to go over and talk to August to let him know, like, hey, chill out. Right after that, there's a scene where the women in this new town carry in litters the nobles from the cavalcade for the marriage. And Fitz is just completely embarrassed by this. And this was just another example of the way things like shame and disgust and embarrassment create real social rules in this world that people avoid, and it helps to keep them in line. And I just found that really interesting. And I thought the ending sequence was done very well. It was very dark. It was cleverly done. There were a lot of people involved. There was a lot of intrigue. There was a lot of suspicion about who's doing what. But specifically the scene with Ruris was just very dark. You have Fitz and Ruris joking about being poisoned, and then they both are. And I think it really added to the finale of this book. And just the way Regal so callously recruited his valet, his groom, right, the stable boy, into this murderous plot. He's so callous. And he's so indifferent to anyone's death. And the way he just, at the end, just ignominiously has them all murdered after he's recruited them into this plot to take out Ruris, to take out Fitz, just was kind of sad to see. And it was also sad the way we saw Fitz and Cobb just turned into mortal enemies. But yeah, just that overall ending sequence was very dark, it was very tense, and it was just easy to keep reading through it. And I was glad that it ended like that, and with a strong finale. And on the whole, it seemed cleverly done. And what I mean by that is, it just didn't ever seem too implausible. And I think that's one of the aspects of this book that I most appreciated. That even when Fitz is fighting off, forged ones, there's always a reason for it. There's not this unpredictable jump in his power level. Right? He didn't go on his assignments and just kill everybody or beat up everybody. He didn't just destroy everybody with his skill. He often had very difficult times learning these things, and it was a struggle the whole time. But I appreciated how it never just devolved into predictable wish fulfillment. Fitz also doesn't win every argument. He doesn't always come off looking like the hero. I felt like there was this attempt to always ground the story in some set of consistent rules. One objection to that, one thing that seemed a little implausible, was the way Regal just left Burek and Fitz to die. And just reflecting on that final scene again, the way Fitz used wit and Nosy to save his life was very interesting when you think about it as a whole. This society shuns people who use wit, and it brings shame and humiliation. And if Fitz had been a good kid and just followed the rules, listened to Burek, my guess is that by the end of this book, he actually would have been dead. He's fairly young in this, and this world has a lot of subterfuge, and he himself is very much undermined by powerful forces. And he basically just survives. He doesn't thrive at all. And oftentimes he survives by using these abilities that most people in the society would consider somewhat debased, which I thought that was really cool. But going into the next book, one thing I'm really curious about is, what the Elderlings are. We just kind of got some hints about them, but they're very intriguing, and I want to see more about that. I would also like to see more use of skill, but I would like to see more of skill, maybe the way it affects the world, if that is even a thing, or more day-to-day uses of it. That's not to say that there weren't any interesting uses of skill. One of the things I really enjoyed about this book was the way skill intersected with people's personalities, and also just the way skill seemed to have so many strange social rules around it. That was something I've never really encountered before in a fantasy, and I really liked that aspect of it. It just added this whole other dimension of morality to this story. As this story continues, who does Fitz become? Because we've seen him reject the cruelty of Galen. I kind of had this feeling that he had done that earlier, after he had completed some of the skill training. And he critiqued this world. And yet he's an assassin. And I couldn't help but wonder, as this story continues, is he going to continue down this road to becoming an assassin? And if so, how does he straddle being this immoral person and doing whatever King Shrewd tasks him to do, and at the same time reconcile that with how much he hates the attitudes and the murderous nature of people like Galen and Regal? And I found this very interesting because it's surely at some point Fitz is going to have to do something that would make Regal squirm. Surely he's going to have to kill someone. Or maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm completely wrong about that. If he keeps going down that road, I keep wondering, how much different will he really be than someone like Regal or Galen? Or is he maybe going to throw off this assassin's profession because it's never going to be able to reconcile with some of his beliefs? I don't know. But yeah, just a lot of questions. I'm looking forward and excited to see what happens in the next one. And as of filming, I may be getting that next book tonight. Looked like the local bookstore had it in stock, so we'll see. But yeah, I'm looking forward to the next book. And as always, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Peace.